I'm sorry, I just love the Prodigy, and it had to start there. Usually it would be on my head, I take it off, I do a whole thing. Hello, I'm Zeospantera, and this is the Sparkos Gemini. And it's ruined me. It's ruined everything. It's a ruin. It's the ruiner. It's one gemstone. Zeos, don't forget to put one gemstone in the title. It's $1,000. Well, no. We could forego the gemstone because it's only $995. This is the product page, and if you think it's stark, and it's like, where's the information? Where's the photos? What does it do? What does this do? There's a big, ugly green Learn More button that brings you to this page, which has endless text you can read. And if that's not enough, we could open the actual manual that is twice as long as that page and tells you everything you need to know about this thing. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Oh my God. So, this has a tube in it, but it's only a hybrid. But this is made by Sparkos Labs, those guys who make op amps, you know, the little things you could put in like your Gishelli Lab stuff, you know, they change the way the structure works. So they've made one other amplifier previous, and I did it years ago before I knew exactly who Sparkos was or had any relationship with them. And now they always show up at the shows, and they're great guys, and they sent me like a fucking shitload of op amps to put in different things. And like, by the way, we have this thing, and I'm like, cool, it's a cool thing, send it to me, it's a cool thing. Holy shit. Does this not sound like anything else I've got? Like, if you came to my house and put a gun to my head and was like, what's the best sounding amplifier? Not this. This is the best sounding amplifier. I don't know. That's great. That's great. That's great. You're great. You're all great. This weird fucking thing. So, this is actually designed and built not just as a headphone amplifier and preamp. By the way, this weird logo thing that matches kind of like the demonic thing I put down. It's fine. But this, and these are terrible. I hate these. All of these are the worst. This is a tube rolling test bench. That is what it is designed as. It is not, oh, they made a headphone amplifier. Cool. Oh, it's got a tube. Oh, cool. No. It doesn't come with Megumi. I printed that, put it on there, and then my pads stained it brown. But it's fine. This deserves the biggest Megumi sticker because my brain explodes. So, I'll explain real quick. We'll do a tour of the unit. Zeos, Wallpaper Horde, tell them about Patreon, Subscribe Star. Thank you for supporting me. Thank you to my patrons. You make it possible for me to go to shows and meet these people and then get things like this to review. So it's all a big cyclical thing. This fucking thing. Okay, so we'll start at the back since it's the least interesting. Power plug in. This is unit 39. They could have made it 69. They didn't. You have RCA outputs and you have RCA inputs. By the way, I love these CESS RCA cables. I made them twist like that. I put that heat shrink on. It's so soft and flexible. That's it. No user serviceable parts inside. That's kind of true because the tube is sticking out and you can swap tubes. Risk, fire. This is, by the way, the 120 volt version. One of the reasons, in fact, the only reason I didn't bring this to London Can Jam to demo Eris on, since if you're like, hey, what amplifier makes Eris sound best? Since this is a 120 unit and I couldn't bring it there because it's only 240, it wasn't going to bring a converter, it was a whole thing. There's the back of the unit. Side of the unit has 6 screw holes for 6 screws. 2 of them are in currently just to keep the lid from coming off. It is not built like you'd imagine a $1,000 amplifier to be built. Trust me, you'll get over that shit real quick if you heed my words. So let's move on to the front where we have power button, which is just a big old click, a fucking blue LED, but you know what? Of all the blue LEDs that have bothered me, this one bothers me the least. Look at it. It's so dull and kind of weird looking and oblong. Like, why is it an oval? Sparkos Labs says Gemini, 4.4. I'm sorry, 4-pin. I see 4. See 4 and 4.4, they're the same thing in my brain. It's all the same. So 4-pin XLR and a 1/4-inch jack. If you use the balanced output, you do not disable the RCAs. If you use the 1/4-inch output, there's a switch and it does disable the RCAs. So if you want to use this as a preamp, and you're going to want to use it as a preamp, you can just keep an extra, 1/4-inch thing handy and just plug it in there. Now the RCAs in the back will be off, even if you're using the balanced out. So let's take this off. The other things up here are a gain switch, and a volume knob. I went gain because we have to talk it at length about what that actually does, because it is not just high gain, low gain. Isn't it just high gain, low gain? No. As much as I want to stare at this beautiful black box, we are going to climb inside this, because as much as it says you're not supposed to service usable serviceable parts, you have to get in here. Number one, and this is a design flaw, and I will yell at Sparkos, bad Sparkos, bad. You make a tube swappable amp that is specifically a tube, can take 10 different types of tubes you can assign to this, and we'll talk about it in a second. But yet you can't, like I wouldn't be comfortable with this off, like to satisfactorily grab that. And you didn't make the hole big enough to like reach around next to it. So you have to take the sides off, which means you have to take the entire thing off to do anything with any tubes. You have to take this off. So let's put her here. By the way, I am preamping this with the FIO K11R2R, which I will link in the description. And there you go. And you know what I see when I open something like this up? I see an Alps pot, which is expensive as fuck. The Blue Velvet, apparently. I see Among Us, which is their power supply, which is given the 12 volt, or 18. I don't know how to read things. I see a little tube, and I see a series of jumpers. And if you go back to the manual, there are pages dedicated to jumpers. This is all words. Here are the 10 types of tubes you can use. It comes with a 6922 or a Type 1 jumper configuration, whereas a 12AX7, 12AT7, 12AU7, 12AY7, 6AQ8, F5751, 6CG7, 6N1, or a 12BH7 can all be used. Those are popular in Macintosh tube amps. Slightly longer length, mostly even order harmonics. So you open the thing up, and then you get the 3 clusters of jumpers. Jumpers back here, jumpers there, and jumper there. Or a jumper and then a jumper selector. I have another... Before I get into how fucking amazing this thing sounds, and if you're sticking with me and you have $1,000 to spend, you're gonna spend it. So leave now if you don't. So let's talk about the boring stuff that I just want to yell about. I want to yell about it because I could save this for the end, but I'm not gonna. So, all right, I'll forget words and shit. Anime girls, me. 3 clusters of switches. Oh, let me get back before we go anywhere to the gain switch. The gain's that. So I have it out. Out is high gain, which makes no sense. Usually isn't in high gain and out is low gain. It's the reverse on this. What are we plugged into? HG600s. All right, no, we're going back to Eris. We'll do tungsten in a second. I brought tungsten double-sided here, but I have to switch something back that I switched before, which allows it to be easier to run tungsten. This, by the way, claims 2 watts at 32 ohms. That is a reasonable amount of power. 2 watts at 32 ohms is good. It also claims 3/4 of a watt at 300 ohms, which is silly. That doesn't make any sense, because it usually be like 2, and then by the time you get to 300 ohm, it'll be like 1/4 watt, and then by 600 ohm, it's like 1/1000th of a watt. So the fact that it's still putting out 3/4 of a watt at 300 ohms means that these 150 ohms are going to get somewhere between 2 and 3/4. It's going to be 1 1/4 watts. It's going to be close. Plugging in my adapter is a FIO adapter. They do glue this down because it doesn't mount to the front fascia. So that will be like a point of failure if anything happens. Don't yank your fucking 4.4. They can't, your 4-pin, because they can't mount it because you have to take more screws out. Oh, by the way, have you looked in here? Have you seen the giant Sparkos op amps? Which is the ones they say they use? I don't know. This company makes fucking op amps or something. I don't know. What is something? Apparently it's the SS2590 discrete. So these are soldered onto the board. These are not swappable op amps. And you would think that Sparkos would make a swappable op amp, but they don't. Not for this one. And you know what? I don't fucking care. All these capacitors, by the way, a little note, none of those are in the signal path. None of those are in the, I forget, I'll have to read specifically, but apparently with a tube, usually there's buffer caps, and there's none in this because they designed it in a weird way, which is explaining the gain switch. So, where are we? Is music playing? I want to put on my headphones. I want to wear them backwards because that's the way I prefer them now that I've been using them for months and months and months. Okay, so here's what the gain switch does. There is a 10 decibel shift, and it does get louder and quieter, but that is not what it's doing. The way this is doing shit is unlike, I think, any other hybrid tube that exists, and you please feel free to correct me, I'm always wrong. But I want you to think about it like the hot and cold valves on your shower, right? When you put on your shower and you put it all the way cold, it's full blast. When you add the hot, it doesn't blow any harder, it just mixes the valves, right? So if you go full on to both, they're both getting like 50-50. And if you lower the cold down, you start getting more hot, but the pressure never changes. That's kind of how this works. Because that gain switch actually lets you pick how much of the tube sound is bypassing the solid state. And I'm probably saying that in a weird way that they wouldn't approve it, but this is how my brain functions. So if you're on high gain, which is out, I hear a little more hiss. There is some noise in these. It is not a completely silent unit. It's not dead. That could also have to do with the GOES things, which are attenuators, being removed. So if I have it on high gain, which is louder, which means Eris is screaming at 10 o'clock. If I push it in, now Eris is screaming at 1 o'clock. So I get more volume knob. So, okay, but do I need high gain? You need low gain. When you put it on high gain, you are using more solid state than tube. It is literally taking the sound of the tube and taking 10 dB off and saying, no, more solid state. And then if you put it on low gain, which is pulling the switch out, now instead of the solid state doing more of the work, the tube is doing more of the work. You're literally biasing what is having more of an effect on the sound. And it is actually noticeable. Because these headphones, I find I like a little bit more of a neutral source. I think the neutral source, 789 is like perfect on them. It's like the most dead, they're such a wild headphone that it makes sense that you know, keep it clean on the output and then it'll mix it's on its own. But every other headphone on the face of the fucking earth, you get to choose if you want to have more tube sound or less tube sound in your hybrid tube. Just this switch alone. Then you just adjust the volume pot. So there, 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 there. That is just picking how much of this tube is actually being forced into the signal path. So that's modification 1. There are like 4. So moving off of the tube for a second, there's these jumpers here, which I have actually modified. Because the RCA inputs are directly here, and I have a FIO DAC that I can lower the volume, I can crank the volume down, but most of the time I was using the Cyan 2 with this. In fact, you saw it in the Cyan 2 video, I gave a little preview. And that is a fixed outputting DAC. If you have a fixed outputting DAC and you're using easy to drive things like Eris, or I have the Soft Ears Twilights out because they're still out from the dongle. If you haven't seen the dongle DAC tournament arc, that happened already, and it was amazing. But because I'm using something a little bit more sensitive like IMs, if you take the jumpers out of their normal position and just stick them in there just to hold on to them, you actually lower a 15 dB drop from this. So it would be the same as if I put those back in and lowered the DAC here. But if I'm going to use this on multiple sources, it might be beneficial for me as a reviewer to have them on the lower input attenuation so I could use it on hotter sources. So that's a little thing. We're going to have to put those back to run tungsten because taking 15 dB out is not going to help anybody run tungsten on anything. So that's what that set of jumpers does. Then there's these 2 jumpers over here, which I'm not going to fuck with because those are specifically tube type 1, tube type 2 jumpers, which changes the voltage, which I don't want to do unless you refer to the chart. There's the chart. Depending on the type of tube you have, it's either type 1 or type 2, and you got to come in here and flip the switches or flip the jumpers, which now that we're there, let me complain. I'm probably going to modify this. It'll probably be drilling holes in the back because this jumper here, the last jumper, is a bias adjustment for the tube. If you take this jumper out, it's in high bias mode, which is less tubey, And if you put it in, it's in low bias mode, which is more tubey. So not only do you get to do the more tubey, less tubey with the gain switch, you get to more tubey, less tubey with this dip. Dip? No, it's not a dip. It's a whatever it is. And my biggest problem with this whole unit that I'm paying $1,000 for is that these jumpers could have all been switches also. Just little clip, clip, ding, 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 ding. Because if I could get the tube out without, if I cut this hole larger, just enough to get my hands in there, even just on the side, just to get in there and grab it and pull out the tube. And then that jumper was on a flip switch in the back that was like, this way for this tube type, this way for this tube type. And then these RCAs you could put on a 4-way switch. It's like high gain, low gain. And then you got this one, which is the bias one, which I only switched today. And I feel like I've cheated myself out of 3 months. When I love something, when something arrives in this house and I listen to it and I'm like, oh my God, it's so good. I have this weird mental quirk that makes me just not do the review of it for a while. Because I just, as soon as I'm done with the review, I don't have to use it anymore. And let me tell you, of all the things in my house, I've used this thing. This is sat in my little Narbert in the speaker testing area. And I will sit there with Eris or tungsten. Well, no, not tungsten, but I haven't done the thing yet. But sit there with Eris, basically, and just listen to my headphones and watch media on this. Because it's the best thing in the house. And then I was like, what if I put this near field setup that I'm so fucking happy with and put it on the line out of this, which is why it's not hooked up here, because that was the place to do it. It was Cyan 2, or Cyan 2, being fed into this via RCA, and then the RCA out on this into the Orchard Audio RCA to XLR up converter. It's like a $300 box that gives you the proper XLR voltage. And then that going into the Orchard Audio amplifiers, the monoblocks, into those monoacoustic speakers. And it was just, into the sub, into the speakers. It was just like, oh my God. And I could actually physically turn on and off tube in my DAC testing area. Well, high and low bias of the tube. So yeah, a couple modifications and the Gemini 2 will be fucking phenomenal. Number one will be just more switches in the back. If it's a specific like voltage switch, they could do that thing where they recess it, so you have to get like a pin or something. I don't need to be in here. My point is, I don't need to be in here. As much as I want to be in here, and it looks awesome, I don't need to be in here, especially with 6 screws to take it apart. Like you would think if it's specifically designed to roll tubes, you would be able to roll those tubes without pulling the lid off, but you kind of have to pull the lid off. So is it really a tube rolling thing, or is it... They could either raise the tube up so it sticks out, then you can just swap the tube, but then you need to swap that thing, so you need to switch to do the thing. These are all modifications I plan to make on my own. I'll drill 3 holes. I'll put 3 little switches. One switch will be for the RCA gain. One switch will be definitely for this bias on and off. It's only going to be just, is it touching or is it not touching? You know how easy it is to wire? And then the other one for it, which either pick this touching or pick that touching to make a thing go. It's not difficult. It's just moving them controls to the outside of this box. Are we ready to actually talk about sound now? Because if I haven't insinuated how fucking this thing sounds. So, all right. What am I running on? Shut it off for a second. I'm going to put the RCA's jumpers back in. I haven't played with jumpers. My motherboard days, they don't even do jumpers anymore. It's so sad. Can't even set the hard drives anymore. All right, so now that this is set to have a higher gain here, I'll lower this down. When you turn this on, your little soft blue light comes on. There is a 40-second tube warm-up delay. So it isn't playing right now. Turn the volume up. It's playing whatever it's playing. Post-mounted jukebox. Nothing is playing. We'll hear when it starts playing. Because Eris will sing to us. Sing to me, baby. And it's been running, so it might take less than 40 seconds. I think there's a sensor in it. But there you go. So you do get a soft warm-up, so it doesn't crunch the tube. You get it levels out. It's long enough for it having it sit there. So now we've got those set back to high input. Yeah, so high gain now, I only get to 9 o'clock, and low gain, I get to like 10:30, 11 o'clock maybe. So that's why I set it to lower. Now, if I come here and drop this down to like 75, much more room to turn the pot on this beautiful, amazing volume pot. So, how the fuck does it sound, Zeos? Because you've been talking about it and I've calmed down now. Breathe. Breathe. Unplug this. This is an unusable amplifier in the Z Reviews mantra. It's unusable. Unfucking usable. And I've had unusable amplifiers before. You know what other amplifier in my house was completely unusable? And when everyone's like, Zeos, are you going to buy one? Zeos, are you going to buy one? The Mascobo 465 is an unusable amplifier for Z Reviews. Because you and me, here, hold on. Us, you and me, we're different people. We are not the same. Whereas you get to have fun listening to music, Zeos has to assess all this bullshit. He has to plug a headphone in, whether it's this headphone or this headphone or this headphone or that IM, and I have to plug it into something that normal people will have a rough sound signature for. And the Mascobo 465 at $17,000 was not something that I think everyone just has at home. Now, while this is only $1,000, which is a lot more reasonable, the way it, I don't want to say the word fixes, because then it's going to sound like all music is broken, but it kind of is. Once you hear it through this, it's like it fixes all the sound. The way this sounds, the way it changes the way things sounds, happens to such an extreme level. Like, it isn't just, oh, it's a slightly warmer tube amp, just slightly. This does shit that I have heard full tube amps not do to sound. So if I reviewed a piece of gear, well, I can just use it like 1 out of 12 different amplifiers. I know what's going to happen. I'm going to do plug in here, 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 and go, oh, 10 out of 10 IM. And it's not going to be the truth, because this is adding like 2 points. It was an 8 out of 10. It was an 8 out of 10 on you. It was an 8 out of 10 on you. It was maybe a 7 out of 10 on you. Yes, that was a good catch. It makes things sound better than they are. This is permanent beer goggles. I guess beer headphone, beer earmuffs? Beer earmuffs. Beer muffs. This is beer muffs. And the thing is, it's okay if it's fucking with it. Because you're going with the tube anyway. As soon as you commit to the tube lifestyle, you're okay with your shit being fucked with. You accept this. So now, let's try tungsten. Because here's the thing the thing I changed was the bias. I did that, and it works out better. I'm going to end up putting it back. But this bias is set to high, set to low, which means less tubiness, despite the higher. So only now have I done the more tubiness. So now I'm going to listen to tungsten for the first time. Gain up, more tubiness, and I might need higher gain, which will automatically drop tubiness, but we're going to find the fuck out. All right, so we're on low gain, maxed out, and it's playing tungsten at like 85%, so we're going to need high gain. Oh, I lowered this. Back to low gain. So now, maxed out the DAC here. Jumpers are in place, so there's no attenuation on the RCA input. On low gain, they call it gain. It should have been tube bias, but that would be a real confusing thing. Maxed on tungsten double-sided. I'd say this is loud enough. I'd say it's loud enough. Keep in mind, we can also just boop, boop, and put it in high gain, which will bias it less of tube, but give us more volume. Oh my God, it's so loud. Tungsten is screaming. So to answer your question, will it run tungsten? The answer is yes, and then also fuck yes, because there's high and low gain. So it still runs it. And then the thing is, I would want to run this on low, which is more tubey on low at max tits, instead of higher and then, oh, you know, it doesn't sound, the thing, all right, so here's the thing. I'm addicted to the way this thing sounds, and by putting the bias higher, which if you want to swap it, turn off the power, then just pull that thing out, and you can put it to the side, you can put it into the only one of the things. this amplifier is fucking silly. It was before that adjustment, before putting it on a higher bias, this was already the best sounding thing in my house. As far as like, it's got power, it's fun, it's controllable, it's got a clean pot, it's basic bitch, like it doesn't have balanced inputs, but you know, cry me a fucking river. Sparkos is the company that makes op amps, right? They're so like niche in the what they're building of like it's a component that you add to other components and it automatically makes all those other components sound better. I'm going to do a full swap for the giant Gishelli Labs. I'm going to get, I think I need 8 or 9 mono op amps to swap the entire DAC over. And I've got like 6 of them already because they sent me like 6. I'm going to get the other 3 and I'm going to do a full board swap. So they're making these little tiny petite or giant things that improve the sound of your normal stuff. And now they're like, oh, by the way, we're just going to make the rest of it anyway. Oh, and we're going to throw a tube in there because that's Sparkos is known for their tube stuff. No, they're not. This doesn't make any fucking sense that this exists. And it's amazing. And then I'm skipping over like the most important part. I'm sure that they're the most proud of this fact. Hold on, where is it? I want to read it verbatim if I can. All right, no capacitors in the signal path. So none of these capacitors are in the signal path. At Sparkos Labs, we always say that the best capacitor is no capacitor. Thus, the Gemini Tube headphone amplifier does not have any coupling capacitors in the audio signal path. This is almost unheard of in tube designs. Coupling capacitors are typically used to block large DC voltages that exist on the tube plates and the cathode when coupling the audio signal out of the tube. We took a different approach and used a novel Cascode Wilson current mirror. I want that on a t-shirt. I want like a bumper sticker that says my amplifier uses a novel Cascode Wilson current mirror to couple the audio signal out of the tube. We then made use of the DC servo to strip off the bias current and leave only the audio signal. Therefore, there is no need to agonize over the coupling capacitor, its type or value, because it doesn't exist in the Gemini. It's also a no feedback thing talking about, you know what? Fuck it. Go read. Web pages are free for most people if you have the internet. This thing makes 0 sense it exists. If Sparkos made an amplifier, a headphone amplifier, that was solid state and it had swappable op amps, that would make sense. So instead, Sparkos, who makes op amps, made an amplifier with fixed, soldered in, permanently op amps, but lets you swap to 10 different types of tube. And they're doing it in a way that like no one's done like that system before, or very few have. And then you have the option to like more bias, different voltages, and then you could change the input values, and it's using an expensive pot, and it's missing 4.4, but I won't cry a river about that, and it's got a blue fucking LED. It's like, this thing is wild. Is $1,000 making sense now? This isn't like anything else. And really, if you came to me, I'm going to ask this question out there right now, because I've asked in my patronage chat, and people are like, it's X-Duo. Down there, or up there, or, well, here's an X-Duo tube amp. Here's an X-Duo tube hybrid amp. Name another company that makes a tube hybrid amplifier. That's not X2O. That's under whatever. You know what? I don't even care. $1,000 and up, $1,000 and down. X2O pretty much rules the roost for, there's a tube, but there's also a solid state component, and then it blends them together. If you said I want a tube hybrid for like hard to drive planars or super low impedance planars, it's always been X2O. Or you buy a good solid state amplifier and you preamp it with a tube amp. And that's how you do it. This is one of the only hybrids that exists in what I would call the realm of fucking hi-fi. Like hi-fi. Like it's handmade in a grand. So it's like, and it's ugly. The fact that it's like the ugliest little duckling you've ever goddamn seen makes it somehow more desirable. Like if it was all a fancy case and it was a topping and SMS, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's a thing. But that would be made in China, and this is not. I don't think it's made in China. Well, where did they make the board? Where did they make the board? Did they say? Anyway, I feel like this actually makes sense for $1,000. Like it just does. It's got so much going on. And it's so different, and it's made by a company that should not be making this. This doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. And it comes with what they think is the best tube, too, which is a Russian 6922 EH. Is there a brand? Oh, it's a what's it called? Harmonics. It's a, I can't read the first word. Electro-harmonics? Yeah, it's Electro-harmonics. So, basically, I haven't swapped tubes in this yet. I may never. Because as much as I could get into the tube swapping game, which, by the way, moving this around, I could hear the tube ringing in the headphones. I think it's fucking perfect. It comes to you almost perfect. You open up the top. If you want to make it more tubey permanently, you put that thing in. Or, hell, you just get fucking jumper extenders, push it out the hole with the tube, and you can just do things without taking the thing out. That's even easier than drilling holes in it. It's just ghetto. I love this thing. It's not complicated. And I know you're all going to look at it and go, well, Zeos, why does it look... Looks like the Acme headphone amplifier that you see in Wile E. Coyote cartoons. Make sure you don't smash the tube when you put it down. If you're using a different tube, it might be taller. Like, this is not exactly the sexiest looking box that's going to be on your desk. Not even a little bit. That is a collab that's coming up with me in a bit, which is also a headphone amplifier. But don't worry, it's not competing with this. It might just work really well with it. I'll put the screws back in. Keep an ear out for a collab coming up. So now we've got black box, Megumine, a tube we can't quite extract, gain switches, which we're on. I am actually mildly shocked at how well this sounds, how well it drives. First of all, here's the thing. There's a huge difference between can it drive tungsten and can it drive tungsten and does it sound amazing? That's a thing, because you could make this go and it will sound adequate on a lot of stuff. Hell, even the little Takatis Tone 2, the little fucking USB with the weird knob with the push button light will drive this satisfactorily, even to the point where it's like, well, fuck, do you need anything else? And then you hear it on something that has a tube in it, and yes, you need something else. The best these have sounded, however, is not this. I have those Toxaritis devices, Achilles, dual, monoblock 300B tube amps that are designed to power speakers. Yeah, I put the adapter on it, straight into these. Yes, all right, so here's the real question. What the fuck happens? Oh, God, are we going to find out this answer? We're going to go find out this answer. All right, we'll go find out this answer. What the fuck happens when I turn on the 300B giant Toxaritis tube amps and preamp it with the Gemini? We'll see if future Zeos remembers to adjust the white balance because this area is completely different. Hello! Welcome to the downstairs near-field desk where I've been using this and this and this during tungsten. And I'm like, well, dual T-amps, and we got the Black Ice F360 and the Denafrip series. Let's just see what these can do. And these big boys here using the... This is a double helix adapter. Actually, I have a double helix adapter for that son of a bitch, too, because the guy was like, hey, if you buy another one of these, I'll send you one. And I'm like, fuck! So, of course, I bought one. Anyway, we now have the Toxaritis devices Achilles, which is an amplifier made in Greece that I reviewed years ago. And it's big. It's a big amp. And all it is doing is powering one side each of tungsten. 8 watt per channel for speakers, so I have no idea what it's coming out with 150 ohm load in it. And I was using this as the preamp. My Yixing, this is just a straight, adds nothing, just a relay switching preamp, which is very good. Coming off the ROM DAC here, the VMV D2R. I decided to go a little nuts with this, so I got the $1,000 SMSL VMV D2R ROM DAC, which is amazing. And I was doing that and into this. And now I'm going ROM DAC into the Gemini, into the Achilles. And I can tell you that there is a god, and his name is, well, it's Ryan Dietz of Modhouse Audio. But this, and I don't know what's playing right now, Love Never Felt So Good from Michael Jackson on low gain. No, wait, high gain. No, low gain. Okay, in. So more 2B with the bias adjustment added through these fucking things. Look, I'm not a. You know me. You know me if you've made it to this part in the video. We're so far along. You know me. I'm not a big man about spending money. It's like if you could do something for cheap, fucking do it for cheap. Do it until you're happy. Do it until you're happy. And if that price tag comes at $118, you fucking stop. But holy shit. I mean, that's 1,000. That's 1,000. These are 2,000. These are like 3,000. This is an expensive fucking thing I've got going on here. And it ain't about the money. It's about the, oh fuck, I'm about to say the word synergy. It's just, it's all working together to make very, very happy PP moments for Zeos. And I'm not saying that you need to do this, but holy fuck, if you get to hear it, just go nuts. Go nuts. Let's add an F360 in the front of it too. Why don't we do that so we can get the soundstage enhancer? Just, this is the dumbest. This thing, I've been listening to this for days. I didn't think to bring this over from there to here, and now it's here, and now it's just... Listen to Tungsten and nothing else. Love, this is... Like, it's... I've listened to 3 songs before the fucking camera came on, and I'm just like, oh yeah. Tungsten just needs all the fucking tube to make all the tube happen with the tube. Also, shout out to the Timsock TS1024s, which I like nearly as much as the Tungsten on setups like this. So, unknown planar from China, which is roughly the same price as a single-sided of this. This is the dumbest thing. This thing adds the dumb. Just, it is dumb all on its own, and then this is also dumb, and that thing's dumb, and these are dumb, so I just like dumb shit. Note, you don't have to spend tons of money on the cables, although I'd like to thank, those are Eminence cables from World's Best. So there you go. Oh my god, am I turning into the thing I hate? No, still a weeb. Pervy weeb. I'm fine. Everything's fine. Redo a healer poster. I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. If I start wearing Hawaiian shirts like, Gutenberg, then call it in. Anyway. I'll go to high gain. Hold on. Or... No, baby! What is this even doing? I don't even know what this is doing. Alright. While the string quartet does the 9 Inch Nails, something I can never have revision, thank you for stopping by. Patrons and subscribers, you help fund most of this madness. A lot of the stuff is just sent to me by companies, but if they're here and they're not sold in the yard sale, then I ain't paid. So it's up to you guys to keep the lights on and the mini splits running. Thank you to Pioneer Mini Splits Zeos, secret sponsored video. Because Pioneer Mini Splits sent me these mini splits. Because they're like, do a couple videos and talk about them. So you know what? Fuck it. Dehumidifies my basement in the summer. Heats my basement in the winter. 36,000 BTU for like $2,800. It's a pain in the ass to install, but there's videos of that on the second channel. Go. Echo. Turn on 36K basement. And they're all smart controlled. So you can just yell at them and they'll just turn on. So yeah, patrons and subscribers, thank you so much for supporting this channel. You get to see the reviews early as a patron, $5 patrons. You get to participate in yard sales. You get to the monthly Q&A, and you get to lossless current and old sound demos. 4 reasons to join for $5. $10 a month, get in the private behind-the-scenes Telegram chat to ask me questions like, hey, Zeo, or get to see the shit happening when it's happening. I don't do this all for myself. I do this for them, for the patrons. Not for the videos, for the people in the chat. So if you're a $10 patron, you get to experience this shit as it's happening. So they're going to have to see this right away. And if you're in that, you also get into a lifetime swap meet channel to buy, sell, and trade gear. Which, if I just wanted to, change hobbies to like collecting vintage Porsches, sell all this shit in the yard sales and the swap meet, move on. There's a Philly meet coming up next month, I think. And I was going to bring these with the tungsten. Now I got to bring these and this and this and her. It's a whole thing. This Sparkos Gemini is a whole thing. And I wish them the best of luck. And the Sparkos Gemini 2, I want to make that a Z collab. And when that amplifier I talked about, the collab amplifier, you bet your ass I'm going to preamp it with the Gemini.